My lord, all the jesters are within the castle's walls. Lock the gates. Lock the gates.
Hey everyone, welcome back. This is Analyze This, a podcast about whatever the hell we want to talk about. I am Daniel, and I am here with my brothers. Go ahead and introduce yourself, guys.
Hello, it's John again.
John.
Hello, this is Steve again.
So this episode is going to be reminiscing the 1900s. And no, we're not from like 1901 or anything like that. But we can still talk about it. It's fine. And I have a few questions that we're going to go around the room and talk about. Let me start my clock before I forget, because if
Are we supposed to remind you to record now, or was that supposed to be before?
it's recording. It's recording. So the question for this episode, one of the first question is going to be, what decade did you enjoy the most? And I'll start off, and then you guys can pick it up from there. So for me, I enjoyed the 1970s and the 1980s, simply because, you know, it was my youth years, and you basically didn't have any worries in the world. Go ahead and tell us what your decades were.
I'm gonna say for me, definitely. I guess you could say the 2020s. Is that accurate to say? 2010 to 2000. Well, for me, I was born in 1992, so I don't really feel like I got one option, right? And so for me, overall, for like when I think of like most impactful decade for me, definitely 2010 to 2020 for me, because 2010 I graduated high school, turned 18, right? A couple of years after that, I started working for the company I'm working for now, and I've been with them for 12 years at this point, just about, right? Did a lot of growing up, moved out of New York. Since in that span, I lived in 5 states, over 15 cities, 10 cities in that time span. So like for me, that was a whole lifetime right there alone.
Tito, what decade did you enjoy the most?
The 70s and 80s, because I didn't have to do shit, I didn't have to work. Mom and dad took care of me. It was the best.
Yeah, I feel that the 70s and 80s were the nicest for me in reference to being a kid and enjoying yourself. In one of those decades, I remember some occasions where I used to go visit my grandparents in summer vacation, and we were basically kids, running around without a care in the world. They lived in a small country town. They had a city house, but they had a small country town house. And there, we used to just run around, ride horses, fly kites. And one of the things about flying kites, I don't know if you remember, Tito, we used to put like little blades at the bottom of the tail of the kites and have kites.
You fight?
Yeah,
you fight the kites.
We fly and fight the kites with wars, and whoever does the best maneuver will basically cut the string off of the other person. Hey, that was fun.
It's like cockfighting in the sky.
In the sky, exactly.
Actually, there's a country that does that. I was listening to it not too long ago on YouTube. There's a state, I forgot which one was it. That's actually they do that. They're still doing it. They're putting knives and stuff like that on tail, and they do fights in the sky.
So it's like we used to put the blades on, and then you know how when you're a kid you have your neighborhood or your block, and then 2-3 blocks over you have kids from that block. So they would fly their kites, we would fly our kites, and it's like we fight each other's kite, and whoever loses the kite, and we would run and grab that kite, and it belongs to us.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So that was fun. I remember that.
The best one is when you cut the kite and you team up with somebody else. The other guy drops his kite, catches the one that's coming down, grabs it, and brings it in. Bring both kites in.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So,
A rescue.
Did you guys take your horse and chariot to your 1900s kite fights?
no, we didn't have horses, but we had neighbors who had horses, and they used to let us ride. And it was bareback horse riding, so it was weird because you feel the bones of the horse and all that.
I'm gonna go over for a second.
When you finish riding the horse, you'll be talking like this for the rest of the day.
So a couple weeks ago, I was asking Danny a couple questions about Texas, right? And he trolls me. He goes, "Oh, what kind of horse are you gonna get? I got 2 Kias." And I don't know jack shit about horses, so I'm like, oh, those must be some good horses. They named their car brand after it.
I'm like, no, they are cars.
Oh, you know, I don't know anything about horses.
Oh, I got a motorcycle. That's a horse.
Oh, it's so funny, man. This shit be done.
So another story that I remember from visiting my grandparents was they had an old country house, and it had an outhouse. So there were no plumbing, there were no bathrooms indoors or anything like that. And when I was a kid, you didn't want to eat or drink after a certain hour, because if you had to pee or take a crap, you had to go to the outhouse in the backyard. And after dark, I did not want to do that. So it was either go out there or piss on a on the chamber pot.
Yeah, it was scary out there at nighttime. You hear the crickets, all the little birds, all that wicked noise out there.
And we're talking about like an 1800 outhouse where it was just a deep hole, like 30 feet down, and if you fall in there, man, you're gonna be swimming in shit.
But for that, I'll just open the window and piss out the window.
Hey, when you're like 7 years old, you're not allowed to open the doors or the windows at that night time of night.
No. Nah, man. Grandpa used to go to sleep with a machete right next to the bed in those times. Everybody had machetes, yeah. That was the security guard.
So that's my story from my youth. What about you guys?
Well, you said mine. It's the same thing. We did it together.
Yeah, but it's like we weren't together 24 hours a day. So you probably had other experiences. No. What about you, Jonathan?
No, I was gonna say the only thing that I was trying to sit here and think of something actually from the 90s. The oldest memory I can think of is I remember Tito, you finally got your boat fixed again, the cigarette boat you had. And we were on the water with Dad's boat, and we were having like a water fight, and throwing like bags of water or something like that out of each other or something like that. And I remember we got stopped by the Coast Guard or whatever it was because we were driving on the channel or some shit like that. And then we were just going back and forth, throwing bags of water at each other on the open ocean, like chasing each other, throwing water at each other. And, I don't remember how it ended, but I don't know why. I just remember that exactly. Do you remember that day exactly, Tito? I don't know why I remember that.
The day I remember what happened. The day I can't remember. That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
They wanted to give us a ticket because we were short on vests. Actually, you need.
I don't remember that. You see?
Yeah, but the guy says, look, you guys are having fun. I see that you guys are not drinking. You're just having fun. Next time when you're in the water, please take it easy. Keep it 5 miles an hour when you're in the channel. And make sure you have another vest. I said, okay, thank you, sir. He said, keep one of your motors off at least when you're on the big. You don't need both motors on. I said, okay, thank you, sir.
That's funny.
And he let us go. He said, "You guys are having fun." He knew it wasn't drinking. He didn't see no alcohol. He went through the whole boat.
I don't remember all of any of that there. I remember them just telling us like slow down on the channel. That's crazy.
Yeah,
that's so crazy. From what I can recollect versus what occurred.
What year did we go to Puerto Rico? We did a family, not family thing, but it was more
2001, same year of 9/11.
2001.
Same year of 9/11.
Is that it? It was that before or after?
Before.
Way before it happened. Yeah,
in the summer before.
Tell us what you recall. Because you were young at that time.
Funny enough, I actually brought Dad back a couple of years ago to Puerto Rico, and that's the first time he went back since that trip over there, and I went rolling down the hill again. I don't know if you remember that. When we were rolling down the hill at the fort, I went rolling down again with the kids. Almost broke my fucking neck doing it, but it was fine. But I remember like bits and pieces of it. I can't really differentiate what it was, because we did Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico. I can't really differentiate between the two. I remember like being in the back of the house there with the little lizards and stuff like that everywhere. And then I remember like visiting like the big satellite and stuff in Puerto Rico. And things so it's like scatterbrained on it there. I remember specifically my hours when we were in like the hotel. And we found a little coquis or whatever they call them things, in the swimming pool. That's we were swimming in that pool.
I remember that.
Yeah, that's like bits and pieces. But when we went back with Dad, I went rolling down the hill again. It was pretty fun. Walked through the whole fort again. So that refreshed a lot of memories like that there.
The Puerto Rico trip came about because back in the 80s, I think it was, Dad was in a plane that actually took in smoke, and he had to evacuate with the slide. And ever since then, he did not want to fly. And he was telling me about, hasn't been to Puerto Rico in over 30 years, and he misses it, and you know how it is. So I said, okay, let's set it up, and I got it so that we can all get together and go. First flight in over 30 years that he did. And when we got there, I remember we did like 2 days in each city, and we did the whole island all around. And when we got to Ponce, which is where he was a kid when he grew up, he was talking about all his childhood, and I remember this house, and so used to live here, and they used to call me this. And then we went to like the ocean section, and he's like, right on this rock, I used to go fishing with the soda can and the string. So that's how the trip came around, and I enjoyed it because he recalled his youth, and you can see that he was having fun.
Yeah.
Yes. Then we went to the Dominican Republic. It was a nice time. Both trips. It was back to back.
I remember we seen his house that he grew up in, and it was still standing.
Right.
I remember that.
Well, do you
I remember that. I remember seeing the house like blue, and then there was a grocery store, and I remember someone was walking down, like a horse was walking down the block with a chicken next to it, and I thought that was the weirdest thing ever. I was like, like a Disney movie. I've never seen that before, without being like a zoo or a farm or something, just walking down the street. I was like, what the hell?
And we went to a house that he's like, my aunt used to live here, and it ends up that they still live there. So yeah. Were you there when we actually went to her house inside?
Yeah, it was like a great aunt or something. That it was like that used to live there or something.
Yeah. So
something
that was.
I remember it was some type of family that was there. So.
Yeah. So that was fun. That was that trip. Let's see.
Yeah. Well, I went back with him a couple years ago. He had a blast. Also, he spent the whole time cracking coconuts and stuff like that. We went back and visited the fort again. He walked around San Juan. We stayed in Dorado, So we were too far from Ponce. We were gonna take the trip to Ponce. It was like I had rented a car for us anyway, but it was like a 4-hour trip from where we were, and he didn't want to do it. And I was like, all right, I wasn't gonna, because he can't sit in the car too long. So I was like, yeah, I don't want to force him to do it, even if he wants to see it. It's too much for him. So, the satellite fell down in Puerto Rico too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It fell?
Yeah, a couple years ago.
The big satellite in Arecibo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, it was old.
Yeah.
So we talked about the decades that we enjoyed, the things that we did for fun. What did you not like about any one of those decades? I just didn't like the 1980s in New York City. And I mean, you remember we talked about the movie Warriors. It was not exactly full of gangs like that, but it was full of gangs. And everywhere you walked, it was like, what colors are you wearing? Are you in somebody else's turf? And that's the part I didn't like of New York City 1980s.
For me, I would honestly say, you don't really see life until high schoolish around there anyway. But I would honestly say my favorite time frame is going to still be my least, obviously, out of the 1990s, because you got like 8 years in that. But at the same time period, around 2012, 2013, when I left New York, it was I just got tired of everything that was around me. I mean, you guys knew where I lived over there, and I lost a couple of friends kind of like back to back. And I was just like, why am I still here? And I literally was just like, I'm leaving. And I left. It was literally an overnight decision like that, where I went to visit Georgia at one point. I was out there seeing Rob, and I was like, if a job comes open over here, I'm moving down here. And for the first time in the 3 years at that point I was working for my company, I go back to New York, a position's open. I applied. I was over there in 2 to 3 weeks, so that was kind of like just the line in the sand for me at that point. And I was like, I'm out of here. It just got too much for me. I went back a bunch of times when I first moved out, but then I haven't been back probably in 6 years now.
I mean, we all have that experience, and I mentioned to you before that I should have moved out of New York 20 years ago and come to Texas, because it's a night and day situation. I really enjoy it out here. I just couldn't stand New York anymore. I was born and raised in New York, and it just got to me and just had to go. So the only one left out there is Tito. So eventually he'll come out. When are you going to come out, Tito?
Out of the closet or New York?
I smiled right away because I knew he was going to come up with something like that. You saw my smile as soon as I said that, right? I knew he was going to come up with something like that. Okay, so both of them.
I go to all the states. I go to Florida, I go to Georgia, I go to Texas, but I always wind up back in New York.
For me, when I first left New York, I was like, oh, what did I do? And then the longer I got away from it, the more I was like, man, I should have did it sooner. That's what I said. I've lived everywhere, it feels like, but I don't know, it's something fun to me at least that you just wake up one day and you got a new job or a new place you work in, a new place you live in, everything's just brand new. I don't know, it's just something fun about it. You just close your eyes, you open them, and that's it. You're in something completely new.
Listen,
I don't know, it's fun to me.
In New York, I used to have to move the car 4 times a week for alternate side parking, street cleaning. And you couldn't just move the car, wait for the sanitation truck to pass by, and then move it back, because they would ticket you. It was supposed to be that way. It's like, oh yeah, as soon as the truck passes by, you can move it back. But now it was like, no, if you move it back and you leave the car there, you get ticketed. So we had to move it back and freaking wait in the car for like 2 to 2.5 hours, just sitting there.
True story, right? You know how like all those New York, those sitcoms about New York, when you open the glove compartment, all the tickets come flying out. Like that was me all day long. I hated moving my car. I always forgot. Always woke up late. One of the last days of me living in New York, it was really late at night. I got back from some chick's house or something. You know, there's never no parking. I parked like 4 blocks away from the house, maybe 2 feet off of a fire hydrant. I tried to pick a block that was dark and quiet that, you know, a cop wouldn't roll around. I go to my car the next morning, someone broke in my car, stole everything in my car, and I still had a ticket from the pump. I said, fuck New York, man. I'm getting the fuck out of here. They stole my work phone out of the car. I had a credit card in the glove compartment I forgot, sunglasses, a cable. They took my coffee cup. I said, fuck New York. What are you even going to do with any of that, man?
Even a coffee cup? I hope you had coffee in it.
A cup like this, like a thermos type of cup. You fucking assholes, man. I said, fuck New York. And I literally left New York after, like, I was out of New York maybe a week later, a week and change later. And then here, this was the funny part too, right? When I am actually leaving New York, it's fucking torrential downpour, right? My big brother over here canceled on me 30 seconds before we're supposed to leave. I never drove his Tahoe in my life. I never pulled a trailer in my life. I said, fuck it, I'm gonna figure it out. I said, I know, all I gotta do is make it off the 21st, and I gotta make it down Dimness to get on the once I get to Coney Island Avenue, I knew I was golden. Everything's big enough. Here I go.
As long as you don't go in reverse with a trailer, you're good.
And I did it. I made it all the way. I got away from my house. I picked up Joe in Maryland because he was moving down to Georgia at the same time. And then we went down to Georgia. That was the funny. That's when I was like, New York is really trying to test me and keep me here. Like every condition you could imagine. I was like, screw this, I'm out.
Yeah. I mean,
Too funny.
That's our story.
That's too funny.
What's your story, Tito? The things that you don't like about New York.
Well, I don't like it. I love New York. That's why I'm still in New York.
The whole 1900s.
Oh, 1900s? I can't remember that far. I can't speak about it. I can't speak about it right now.
You know, that's what I tell my kids. My kids are always saying like, "Oh, did you know so and so at school did blah 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 blah," and somebody else was recording, and then they will ask me something like, "Dad, did you ever do blah 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 blah?" I'm like, "No," and there's no videos to prove it.
I remember one time I messed up in school, and my mom beat the shit out of me in front of the teacher, in front of the principal. And the principal says, "Yeah." Then the lady says, Miss, you can't hit him like that. So my mom says, "Here, you keep him." And she walked away and left me there. And she starts running after my mom. "Here, lady, you can take your kid. You can keep beating him. It's okay."
This was in elementary school?
It was before John Jay, whatever you call that school.
That was before middle school.
Yeah. There, that was, and then I was just getting smacked in the hole in front of everybody. Everybody just looking at me and just laughing. That's the worst.
But here's the thing.
That's child abuse.
Jonathan, I tell you something that I never misbehave again in school. Because the most embarrassing thing is getting smacked in front of all your friends walking down the hall. You don't want to do that again.
No, that's it. You get embarrassed.
If I did something, I'll make sure it was out of school.
You just don't record, that's it.
And no recording. There were no phones to record.
There was no recording, there was no cameras in school, there was no cameras nowhere.
It wasn't me.
That's what I don't understand the most with this generation.
Jonathan, we used to hang out in the corner playing handball and stuff like that. The cops used to come over here and say, it's 8 o'clock, it's time for you guys to go home. 8:15, we were out there before he came back. He came back, we were getting our ass kicked. Oh no, you go, he tells you go home, you go home. If not, he takes you by your hand, take you to your mom, and your mom will beat the shit out of you.
You got another camera?
Yeah, my Canon died.
Oh, okay.
I had to swap cameras.
Oh, that was a nice transition.
A little brighter.
I did see the camera go down, but you were able to use it on the same feed, so that's good.
That was nice.
So what was your story? You were going to say something.
Shit, I forgot what the hell I was going to say now. I was going to say something to you, but I don't remember what it was now. My camera distracted me when it died there.
We were talking about...
You're saying something about respect.
No, I was saying, and that's why I don't understand about people these generations, right? They're so desperate to be famous, they record themselves doing everything. Like, my family didn't know shit I got involved in whatsoever, unless it somehow bit me in the ass later. Nobody knows some of the shit I done did. But then, and these kids nowadays, they just want to be like, look at me, I'm famous. Like, no, you're a moron, and you're showing everyone what you're doing. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, come on. That's I don't have no social media, and I don't do none of that.
So we're on the top of the half hour, so we're going to close this show. And I mean, like I said before, if you guys are still watching, we're not saying shit, we're just reminiscing and saying whatever we want. But if you want to subscribe, that is up to you. We're doing this because we want to record it and leave it behind.
We've got nothing else to do.
Exactly. Been there, done that. So we're just hanging out. So let's see here. Closing. If you like to learn more, I'm not sure why, but if you want to keep up with what we're doing, go to YouTube, Analyze This. You'll see it under Analyze This as a podcast. And if you want to look at our website, which will constantly have the recent links to whatever we're doing, that is analyzethispodcast.com. And, enjoy yourself, and we'll see you next time. You guys want to say anything in closing, or we're good?
Stick around, guys. If you don't know where this is going, neither do we. We'll get there together.
If you don't see me, because I hit the lotto.
or the April 8th situation with the... Until next time, guys. Take care. Bye.